the toxic was, and for many minutes they could explode forever. They were wrong. On hidden document, silence sacrificed into a flawless corporate takeover.
A suffocating atmosphere blanketed the entire restaurant staff during the emergency morning meeting where I stood quietly. My name is Kara, a 37-year-old woman who spent a decade running this establishment, while my family merely reaped the financial benefits. The brutal reality of my situation crystallized when a harsh declaration echoed across the crowded room. "Today is your last day as the manager of this restaurant," my father shouted with absolute arrogance. A triumphant smirk appeared on the face of my older sister, who always manipulated our family dynamics. She truly believed supreme authority belonged to her, without contributing any actual effort to our daily operations. My deliberate silence contrasted sharply with the escalating confusion rippling through our gathered team of chefs alongside the waitstaff. Without uttering a single word of protest over his cruelty, I calmly reached into my desk. I took a document from the drawer to place it on the table before instructing the room. "Everyone take a look," I announced with a steady voice that cut through the chaotic murmurs. The heavy parchment featured a prominent embossed legal seal signifying undeniable corporate ownership over the enterprise. My father read it once, then squinted to read it again, while blood drained from his face. He shouted, "This isn't right," as the devastating reality of his completely expired authority finally registered. If you want to know exactly how I legally dismantled my toxic family to reclaim my legacy, please hit that subscribe button to hear the full story. The collapse of a family rarely begins with a loud explosion, but rather originates from silent cracks forming over time. I began working at this establishment originally founded by my grandfather Howard when I was only 19 years old. I dedicated my entire youth to operating the business through countless late nights to ensure its survival, while the rest of my relatives remained entirely uninvolved in the daily grind. My father Edward maintained the superficial title of director without actually stepping foot in the kitchen or managing the staff on the floor. He primarily utilized the corporate accounts to finance his luxury shopping habits, alongside continuously funding the extravagant lifestyle of my older sister Kathleen. She resided in an expensive apartment out of state where every single bill was covered by the revenue generated through my exhausting double shifts. I accepted this heavy burden because I genuinely believed I was protecting our shared legacy. The true nature of our arrangement began unraveling during a routine effort to clean out the old filing cabinets located deep within the damp restaurant basement. I was preparing the cramped storage area for an upcoming fire safety inspection when I accidentally discovered a heavy steel box secured with a combination lock hidden beneath a pile of outdated tax returns. I spent several minutes trying various significant family dates before forcing the rusty mechanism open with a heavy metal wrench. I found the original corporate operating agreement concealed inside a faded manila envelope wrapped in protective plastic. Instead of immediately comprehending the absolute power resting in my hands, I simply recognized that something felt fundamentally wrong about the legal phrasing. I carefully read the intricate paragraphs detailing the ownership structure before noticing that the specific share transfer timelines completely contradicted our current operational reality. The document explicitly outlined a mandatory transfer of 80% of the corporate shares directly to me upon reaching adulthood. Meanwhile, the legal proxy granting temporary management authority to my father appeared to contain a specific expiration clause that had already passed. I lacked the specialized legal knowledge to confirm my suspicions right then, making me question whether the paperwork remained legally valid. This confusing realization planted a deep seed of suspicion within my mind that convinced me to keep the document an absolute secret from everyone involved. I locked the paperwork inside my own briefcase while deciding to silently observe the increasingly irrational financial decisions executing from the executive office. I watched Kathleen walk into the dining room demanding premium service while acting with growing arrogance as if she owned the very floorboards beneath her expensive shoes. I noticed how my father effortlessly approved exorbitant personal purchases for his own wardrobe while simultaneously demanding that I cut back on essential restaurant supplies to save cash. Their blatant sense of entitlement suddenly felt much more sinister now that I possessed those hidden legal files. The breaking point arrived a few weeks later during my mandatory review of our monthly expenditure reports, where a glaring financial discrepancy caught my immediate attention. Did this expense for a new car come from the kitchen ingredient budget? I asked my father while checking the end-of-month books. My father brushed the serious inquiry away with a dismissive wave of his hand while refusing to even look up from his phone screen. That is family money. You have no right to question how I allocate it to your older sister, he replied sharply. His cruel justification confirmed my worst fears regarding his total disregard for the business survival. He viewed the restaurant solely as his personal cash machine, without caring about the employees who actually kept the doors open. The realization that my grueling labor merely served to fund their delusions of grandeur finally pushed me to seek professional verification of those basement documents. On Wednesday morning of that week, I brought all the original files to the office of my accountant, who is also my best friend, Melanie. She cleared her desk to spread the documents out before initially approaching the wrinkled pages with a healthy dose of professional skepticism regarding their current validity. Melanie carefully examined the intricate legal jargon while scrutinizing the notary stamps, authenticating the distinct handwriting belonging to my grandfather. Her experienced eyes meticulously scanned the specific dates dictating the transfer of corporate power within the corporate framework. The comfortable atmosphere in her private office shifted dramatically as she realized a highly dangerous truth remained hidden right behind the superficial facade of our family enterprise. The silence between us grew heavy as the legal reality materialized. The rigorous cross-referencing process definitively confirmed my deepest suspicions regarding the true corporate ownership structure. The documentation explicitly proved my grandfather legally left 80% of the corporate shares directly to me upon my 18th birthday. The legal operating proxy granting my father temporary management control possessed a strict expiration date which actually lapsed 3 years ago. He completely lacked the legal standing to make any executive decisions for 36 months. Yet he continued parading around the dining room acting like the ultimate authority figure. Melanie frowned while flipping through each individual page spread across her glass desk. This signature is real, but this proxy clause, it expired 3 years ago, she stated firmly. Are you sure my father is still using that authority to approve all major expenditures? I replied while feeling my heart rate increase significantly. We immediately began reviewing the recent bank statements to understand the full operational scope of the financial damage. The detailed financial records exposed a continuous series of phantom invoices strategically buried within the monthly vendor payment ledgers. Those falsified expenses definitively proved my father systematically siphoned essential restaurant funds through bogus consulting fees, along with fabricated marketing retainers. He deliberately drained our crucial operational reserves simply to finance the delusional upper-class lifestyle Kathleen enjoyed in an entirely different state. She lived in absolute luxury without ever washing a single dish, while I constantly struggled to pay our actual food suppliers every single month. A profound sense of personal betrayal struck me with the devastating force of a physical blow right at that exact moment. The crushing realization washed over me as I stared directly at the undeniable numerical proof highlighting their endless deception. I clearly recognized that I was not merely being exploited for my endless manual labor inside a hot kitchen. My own flesh alongside my blood deliberately deceived me for a very long time, solely to protect their unearned financial access. They viewed my tireless dedication as nothing more than a convenient tool necessary to maintain their extravagant comfort. The sheer cruelty of their prolonged manipulation temporarily broke my heart before an intense wave of cold determination completely replaced my lingering grief. I took several deep breaths to successfully gather my fractured composure inside the quiet office. I firmly refused to let my treacherous relatives destroy the successful culinary legacy my grandfather painstakingly built from absolutely nothing. I decisively requested Melanie to duplicate all the undeniable evidence exposing their extensive financial fraud. We spent the next 2 hours creating multiple physical hard copies containing the manipulated bank statements alongside the expired operating proxy. I neatly organized the explosive documents into secure legal folders to prepare myself for the inevitable legal battle looming rapidly on the horizon. Holding those heavy folders finally made me realize that I was ready to fight back. 2 days later, I sat across from my corporate attorney Malcolm in a discreet high-rise office overlooking the downtown district. Malcolm meticulously reviewed the expired operating proxy alongside the compiled financial evidence, proving the massive corporate embezzlement. He firmly confirmed the absolute legality of my 80% ownership, while outlining the necessary legal steps to execute a complete corporate takeover. Our primary strategy involved coordinating directly with the bank managers to initiate a total freeze on all financial accounts associated with the business entity. This crucial administrative maneuver required absolute secrecy because any premature disclosure would provide my father enough time to completely drain the remaining operating funds before the legal paperwork cleared the banking system. If you let him find out before the freeze order is activated, you could lose all bank access immediately, Malcolm warned sternly. Maintaining strict information security became my ultimate operational priority during the nerve-wracking waiting period leading up to the bank freeze execution. I had to return to the busy restaurant floor to continue my demanding managerial duties, while pretending absolutely nothing had changed behind the scenes. Projecting an aura of complete normalcy around my father, alongside the rest of the oblivious staff, required an exhausting amount of emotional control. I forced myself to swallow my burning resentment every single time Edward confidently strutted through the crowded dining room, giving useless orders to the busy servers. He continued acting like the undisputed king of the establishment, while remaining blissfully unaware of the approaching legal trap. The precarious situation escalated dangerously on Thursday afternoon, when my father suddenly mandated a severe budget cut targeting our premium seafood suppliers. He ruthlessly slashed our fresh ingredient purchasing accounts to artificially inflate the weekly profit margins solely to generate another large cash transfer for Kathleen. This reckless financial decision caused an immediate logistical crisis inside the kitchen, since our demanding clientele expected the highest culinary standards available in the city. Downgrading our core menu items directly threatened the prestigious culinary reputation my grandfather spent decades building from scratch. I watched the delivery drivers turn away from our loading dock because my father explicitly refused to authorize the standard weekly payment transfers. My executive chef Damon quickly discovered the disturbing financial anomalies when our primary seafood vendor formally refused to deliver the morning shipment. He stormed into my cramped back office waving the rejected invoice slips while expressing his intense frustration regarding the sudden inability to source high-quality ingredients. Damon fiercely demanded a logical explanation for the artificial budget constraints, threatening his carefully crafted dinner menu right before the busiest weekend of the month. Recognizing the severe risk of permanently losing my most valuable operational asset, I made the difficult executive decision to reveal a crucial portion of the hidden truth. I quietly explained the upcoming ownership transition while assuring him the severe financial restrictions were strictly temporary measures. Damon quietly absorbed the shocking revelation about the expired legal proxy before his angry expression gradually shifted into a look of solid determination. Damon looked straight at me. "This restaurant runs because you actually work, not because of people who only know how to sign checks. I am with you." His unwavering commitment provided the exact operational stability I desperately needed to maintain absolute order during the chaotic upcoming transition period. Having the executive chef firmly on my side created an impenetrable shield protecting the vulnerable kitchen operations from the destructive interference initiated by my father. Damon promised to expertly manage the frustrated culinary team while creatively utilizing our existing dry inventory to survive the busy weekend service without raising any internal suspicions. P5. On Friday afternoon, my father unexpectedly brought Kathleen into the restaurant to officially initiate their aggressive theatrical interference. They marched straight past the bustling hostess stand during the busy lunch rush to storm directly into my cramped back office without knocking. My father immediately began loudly criticizing the current menu selections, while pointing out perceived flaws in the dining room seating arrangement to anyone within earshot. He arrogantly announced that Kathleen would be taking over my position as the new operations director to completely control all service procedures moving forward. He falsely claimed the business desperately required a fresh perspective from someone with a refined upper-class taste to attract a wealthier demographic to our tables. His baseless criticisms completely ignored the undeniable fact that my careful daily management had kept this establishment profitable through several severe economic downturns. Kathleen confidently paraded around my wooden desk with an incredibly condescending attitude, exactly as if she were inspecting a newly acquired personal property. She scrutinized the stack of unpaid vendor invoices resting on my keyboard before haughtily demanding that I immediately hand over the master inventory access card. She also insisted I provide all the secure server passwords required for the digital cash flow management system by the end of the current shift. Her greedy eyes practically gleamed at the prospect of gaining direct, unrestricted access to the daily revenue streams flowing through the restaurant payment terminals. She clearly intended to treat the entire operational budget like her personal checking account, without understanding the complex financial obligations required to pay our hardworking staff. Instead of reacting with the harsh defensive anger they clearly expected, I deliberately chose to project an aura of weak helplessness. I swallowed my burning pride to silently accept their completely unreasonable administrative arrangement, because reacting aggressively might ruin my carefully orchestrated legal plan. The bank freeze ordered by Malcolm remained in a highly sensitive processing stage, requiring just a few more business days to become fully active across all corporate accounts. Any violent confrontation right then might provoke my father into liquidating the remaining cash reserves before the bank managers could permanently lock the financial system. I forced my shoulders to slump slightly while keeping my eyes averted to perfectly play the role of a defeated daughter, surrendering her hard-earned territory. I nodded slowly while feigning a deep sense of resignation regarding the forced operational transition they were aggressively shoving down my throat. I told them I would agree to hand over all executive power provided the transition followed a proper professional protocol to minimize internal disruption. I insisted that such a massive leadership change required a formal introduction to prevent mass confusion among the kitchen crew, along with the dedicated waitstaff. I agree to hand over management authority, but you must declare this publicly in front of the entire staff to legitimize everything, I said, with a yielding tone. My father immediately puffed out his chest with visible pride upon hearing my apparent total submission to his patriarchal authority. He felt absolutely victorious, believing he had successfully crushed my independent spirit without encountering any meaningful resistance to his grand succession plan. He eagerly set the formal transition meeting for early next week himself, while unknowingly stepping straight into the public trap I painstakingly prepared over the past several days. My father smirked. Fine. 9 o'clock on Monday morning, everyone will know who truly holds power in this restaurant. They left my office shortly after finalizing the meeting details while excitedly discussing their planned luxury renovations for the main dining room. I sat perfectly still watching the heavy wooden door close behind them while knowing their stolen empire was about to collapse spectacularly. At 9 o'clock on Monday morning, over 30 employees had packed into the main lobby area exactly according to the summons. The chaotic event continued directly from the explosive moment my father realized the terrifying implications of the legal document resting on the glass table. The heavy atmosphere inside the crowded room froze completely as the undeniable truth regarding the corporate ownership was finally exposed for everyone to clearly witness. The shocking revelation instantly stripped away the fake authority he had paraded around the dining room for the past several years. "This isn't right!" my father shouted with a cracking voice while his hands were visibly trembling holding the official paper. I deliberately skipped all the tedious legal explanations regarding the expired operating proxy or the specific share transfer timelines. I chose to proceed straight to the devastating practical consequences caused by his massive financial deception to ensure everyone understood the new reality. I calmly replied, "The books are closed, so from this exact second you no longer have the right to withdraw even a single penny from the accounts of this restaurant." I loudly informed him that the primary bank managers had already received the official legal paperwork, authorizing a complete freeze on the corporate finances. He could no longer access the digital server portals or authorize any vendor payments because all his administrative privileges were permanently revoked earlier that morning. His ability to drain the operational budget to fund personal shopping sprees was officially terminated. Kathleen immediately fell into a state of absolute panic upon hearing the complete financial cutoff threatening her luxurious lifestyle. She lost all her previous arrogance while frantically screaming desperate commands across the completely silent dining room. She aggressively ordered the hired security personnel to forcefully intervene to physically drag me out of the main building. She pointed her manicured finger toward the front exit while threatening to instantly terminate anyone who refused to obey her immediate commands. Despite her hysterical demands echoing loudly off the walls, not a single person in the entire room moved a muscle to assist her. The security guard simply stood firmly by the main entrance observing the unfolding confrontation without intervening on her behalf. The suffocating silence lingering in the room was finally broken by my executive chef, who understood exactly what was truly at stake. Damon confidently stepped out from the large group of kitchen staff to stand directly beside me facing my shocked relatives. He glared at my father before declaring he absolutely refused to take any ridiculous orders from arrogant imposters, contributing nothing to the daily restaurant operations. His bold defiance instantly created a massive wave of strong reactions rippling through the gathered crowd, watching the intense family drama unfold. Damon crossed his arms, stepping forward to announce, "We work for the person who actually stands in the kitchen to manage the operations, which is her." The rest of the dedicated kitchen crew immediately followed their executive chef by taking decisive steps forward to physically align themselves on my side of the room. The experienced waitstaff alongside the diligent busboys quickly joined the growing formation to show their unwavering support for the only manager who actually cared about their daily livelihoods. They presented a unified front of clear boycotting against the parasitic family members exploiting the business for so many years. This spontaneous physical movement created an absolute shift of power right inside the room without requiring another word to be spoken. My father looked around the divided space, finally realizing he possessed zero actual authority over the essential people required to keep the restaurant functioning. Exactly 10 minutes after the meeting ended, two contracted private security officers arrived in the main lobby. They approached my father alongside Kathleen to initiate a polite, yet incredibly firm escort procedure to remove them entirely from the commercial property. The trained professionals demanded that my relatives immediately surrender all corporate credit cards, along with their master building keys, directly onto the front reception desk. My father spewed a final barrage of empty legal threats regarding future lawsuits, while begrudgingly throwing his gold access card onto the polished wood surface. Kathleen walked toward the heavy glass doors with her head lowered in absolute defeat, because she finally realized her unearned luxurious lifestyle was officially over, leaving behind the only source of income she ever exploited. The remaining staff members stood perfectly still inside the main dining room while attempting to properly process the extreme shock of the recent confrontation. They remained deeply anxious regarding the overall future of the business after witnessing such a fierce internal purge involving the very family of the original founder. The sudden public removal of the nominal director created a temporary vacuum of uncertainty, causing the waitstaff to exchange highly worried glances with the kitchen crew. Many employees quietly feared the dramatic management transition might result in immediate layoffs or severe vendor disruptions, threatening the daily operations they relied upon to support their own families during an already difficult economic season. Recognizing their completely valid concerns about job security, I stepped forward to utilize my legitimate leadership status to actively reassure the nervous crowd gathered around the tables. I clearly explained that our business operations would immediately stabilize now that the massive financial drain caused by my relatives had been completely neutralized by the bank freeze. I explicitly promised the dedicated kitchen staff that the premium food purchasing budget would be fully restored by tomorrow morning to properly maintain our high culinary standards. Everyone stay calm. The shifts will continue as normal, and this month's payroll will be paid in full without missing a single penny, I declared clearly. A waiter sighed with relief. Thank you, we were truly terrified the restaurant would close down under their hands. Damon quickly capitalized on the renewed sense of optimism to efficiently lead his entire culinary team back to their respective prep stations inside the busy kitchen. He organized the upcoming lunch service preparations with absolute military precision to ensure our demanding customers would never notice the massive corporate upheaval that just occurred. Simultaneously, he directed a professional locksmith to systematically replace the entire electronic access control system securing the exterior doors alongside the private management offices. This rapid, comprehensive security upgrade ensured the immediate deactivation of all old keycards to successfully prevent any unauthorized entry attempts from my disgruntled family members later that night. Once the bustling restaurant successfully returned to its regular operational rhythm, I walked directly toward the center of the elegant main lobby to perform a highly necessary task. I reached up to firmly grasp the heavy wooden frame surrounding the ostentatious portrait of my father that had unfairly dominated the primary entrance for several years. Taking that ridiculous painting down served as a powerful symbolic gesture, definitively proving I had finally regained total operational control over my grandfather's precious legacy. A noticeable faded rectangular mark remained on the premium wallpaper, highlighting exactly where his fake authority had cast a dark shadow over my grueling daily labor. I carried the massive portrait down the back hallway to permanently lock it away inside a dark storage corner, where it truly belonged alongside the rest of his discarded vanity projects. 6 months passed while all the absurd civil lawsuits initiated by my father were officially dismissed by the presiding judge due to a complete lack of legal basis. The devastating consequences finally caught up with him when the extensive fraud files I submitted officially triggered a comprehensive investigation from the Internal Revenue Service. The federal auditors meticulously examined his fabricated invoices alongside his long history of massive tax evasion. He was severely penalized with enormous financial fines that immediately drained his hidden private accounts, forcing him to face the very real threat of imminent personal bankruptcy without any corporate safety net to protect his assets. Meanwhile, Kathleen gradually lost her unearned luxurious lifestyle once the unlimited corporate funds completely stopped flowing into her private checking account. She was forcefully compelled to surrender her expensive high-rise apartment lease before relocating into a significantly smaller suburban rental property. Confronting the harsh reality of ordinary middle-class existence proved incredibly difficult for her because she actually had to find a regular retail job just to pay her own monthly utility bills alongside affording her basic groceries. To protect my hard-earned peace of mind, I executed a complete permanent severance of our relationship without any hesitation. I systematically ignored their desperate voicemails while permanently blocking their phone numbers to entirely remove their toxic presence from both my personal life alongside my daily business operations. There would be absolutely no forgiveness or family reconciliation because the profound financial betrayal they committed destroyed any remaining familial bonds forever. Under the transparent daily management established by myself alongside Damon, the restaurant continuously recorded unprecedented revenue milestones every single month. The renewed operational budget allowed us to source the absolute best premium ingredients available in the local market to effectively elevate our entire dinner menu. We successfully restored the prestigious culinary reputation my grandfather originally built from scratch, proving definitively that professional honesty combined with relentless hard work ultimately triumphs over greedy familial manipulation. This channel proudly presents this story strictly for educational purposes to highlight the critical importance of establishing firm personal boundaries. We aim to demonstrate exactly how victims of familial exploitation can effectively manage severe internal crises utilizing logical strategies alongside proper legal frameworks. From an objective standpoint, the female protagonist acted decisively to protect her rightful assets alongside her mental health by executing a permanent cutoff from her abusive relatives. The primary antagonists ultimately suffered the inevitable destructive consequences resulting directly from their own greedy choices, proving that deceptive financial manipulation eventually ruins the perpetrators themselves. Here are the most crucial lessons we can extract from this dramatic family conflict. Blood relations never provide a valid free pass for continuous financial exploitation. Tolerating toxic family members only feeds their endless greed while actively destroying your own future prospects. True financial independence combined with a solid understanding of your legal rights forms the ultimate boundary of self-respect. You must actively protect your legitimate assets because nobody else will defend your professional achievements. Sometimes choosing complete ruthlessness by enacting a permanent family cutoff remains the only viable method to preserve your sanity alongside your personal legacy. Refusing to forgive financial abusers is entirely acceptable when preserving your own life demands it. We extend our deepest gratitude to all the dedicated viewers who patiently listened to this turbulent journey until the very end. Standing up against your own toxic family is never an easy decision to make. How would you handle this exact situation if your relatives attempted to steal your business? Please share your honest thoughts in the comments below, then subscribe for more stories.
Câu chuyện hư cấu về Gala cho thấy một hành trình giành lại quyền kiểm soát đầy căng thẳng và quyết liệt, từ việc địa chính tra tuyên bố sa thải ngay tại cuộc họp đến lúc cô bình tĩnh đưa ra tài liệu pháp lý chứng minh quyền sở hữu. Gala thể hiện sự chuẩn bị kỹ lưỡng và bản lĩnh. Đáng chú ý, nhiều ý kiến cho rằng hành động cắt đứt hoàn toàn với gia đình là quá lạnh lùng, nhưng nhìn vào việc cha cô biển thủ tài chính và chỉ là sống dựa vào tiền công ty, quyết định đó lại trở nên hợp lý trong bối cảnh bảo vệ bản thân. Một số khán giả có thể đồng cảm với khoảnh khắc Catherine buộc phải từ bỏ cuộc sống xa hoa, xem đây là hệ quả tất yếu của sự phụ thuộc và thiếu trách nhiệm. Trong khi đó, việc Cara cùng Damon khôi phục hoạt động nhà hàng cho thấy giá trị của minh bạch và lao động thực sự. Từ câu chuyện này có thể rút ra ranh giới cá nhân và hiểu biết pháp lý là yếu tố sống còn. Bạn nghĩ Cara đã quá cứng rắn hay hoàn toàn đúng? Hãy chia sẻ quan điểm của bạn và để lại bình luận ở phần bên dưới nhé.